The world turned sideways in slow motion. I remember the screech of tires, the sickening crunch of metal, and then nothing but pain. Sharp, blinding pain that radiated from my chest and left arm. The steering wheel had crushed against me, the airbag had deployed too late, and my car now rested crumpled against a concrete barrier on the highway. My phone. I needed my phone. Through the spiderweb cracks of my windshield, I could see other drivers stopping, people running toward me. But all I could think about was calling my son, Marcus, my only child, the boy I'd raised alone after his father walked out when he was 3, the man I'd worked 3 jobs to put through college, the person who meant more to me than anyone else in the world. My trembling fingers finally found my phone on the passenger seat, screen cracked but still functioning. Blood dripped from somewhere on my forehead, warm and sticky. I could barely breathe without gasping. Every inhalation felt like knives in my ribs. I pressed his contact. Marcus, my emergency contact, my everything. It rang once, twice, 3 times. "Mom!" His voice sounded annoyed, distracted. "This really isn't a good time." "Marcus!" I choked out, my voice barely a whisper. "I've been in an accident. I'm hurt. I need you." "An accident?" There was a pause, but not the kind filled with concern. It was the pause of inconvenience. "How bad?" "I don't know. There's blood. I can't breathe right. The car is—" "Mom, I'm at Stephanie's mother's birthday party right now. It's a really big deal. Her whole family is here. Can you call 911? I blinked, certain I'd misheard through the ringing in my ears. "What?" "Call 911, Mom. That's what they're for. I'm in the middle of something important here." His voice dropped lower, as if he'd stepped away from the party. "Look, if it's really serious, like if you're dying or something, text me and I'll come later. Otherwise, I'll check on you after the party, okay?" The line went dead. I stared at the phone in my bloody hand, unable to process what had just happened. My son, my Marcus, the boy I'd sacrificed everything for, had just told me to text him if I was dying. A stranger's face appeared at my window, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes. "Ma'am, can you hear me? We've called 911. They're on their way. Just hold on." I nodded weakly, but inside something had shattered that had nothing to do with the accident. If you're feeling this story already, hit that like button and subscribe. For more powerful narratives about strength, betrayal, and justice, you won't want to miss what happens next. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and broken promises, 3 broken ribs, a fractured left arm, a severe concussion, internal bruising. The doctor, a tired-looking woman in her 50s, delivered the diagnosis with professional sympathy. "You're lucky," she said. "If the impact had been 6 inches to the right, we'd be having a very different conversation." Lucky. I didn't feel lucky. I felt alone. Marcus never came to the hospital that night, or the next day. On the 3rd day of my hospitalization, he finally appeared, walking into my room with Stephanie attached to his arm like an expensive accessory. She was beautiful in that carefully constructed way. Blonde highlights, designer handbag, a smile that never quite reached her eyes. "Mom, oh my God, you look terrible." Marcus approached my bed with what I suppose he thought was concern, but I could read him like a book I'd written myself. He was going through the motions, playing the part of the dutiful son for Stephanie's benefit. 3 days, I said quietly. "I've been here 3 days, Marcus." He had the decency to look uncomfortable. I know. I'm sorry. Stephanie's mum's party ran late, and then we had brunch the next day with her family, and yesterday was crazy at work. You told me to text you if I was dying." The room fell silent. Stephanie's perfectly manicured eyebrows rose slightly. Marcus laughed, actually laughed, as if I'd told a joke. "Mom, come on. I didn't mean it like that. You know how you can be sometimes, overreacting to every little thing. I figured if it was really serious, the hospital would call me, which they did eventually." "Eventually," I repeated, "after I listed you as my emergency contact and they couldn't reach you because you were too busy celebrating with your in-laws." "Future in-laws," Stephanie corrected with a tight smile. She placed a possessive hand on Marcus's arm. And it was a milestone birthday. Marcus's presence there meant everything to my mother. Family is so important, don't you think? The irony was so sharp I could have cut myself on it. I looked at my son, really looked at him. When had he become this stranger? This man who wore expensive suits I couldn't afford, who drove a car I'd helped him buy, who stood in my hospital room treating me like an inconvenient obligation. "I raised you better than this," I whispered. Marcus sighed. The sigh of someone dealing with a difficult child rather than speaking to his mother. "Mum, let's not make this dramatic. You're fine. The doctor said you'll be out in a few days. Stephanie and I just wanted to check on you before we head to the Hamptons for the weekend." "The Hamptons?" "Yeah, Stephanie's family has a beach house there. It's kind of a tradition." He glanced at his watch, a Rolex I'd given him for his college graduation, bought with money I'd saved for months. "We should. And probably get going, actually. Traffic on Friday afternoons is brutal." They left 15 minutes later. Stephanie gave me a sympathetic smile that felt like acid. Marcus kissed my forehead absently, already mentally at the beach house. And I lay in that hospital bed, broken bones and broken heart, and realized something that would change everything. I had spent 29 years building a son who didn't value me at all. But what Marcus didn't know, what nobody knew, was that the quiet, aging mother he'd dismissed so easily had secrets of her own, secrets I'd kept because I never wanted my son to love me for what I had rather than who I was. That protection ended the moment he hung up that phone. My hospital room became my planning chamber. After Marcus and Stephanie left for the Hamptons, I lay in that uncomfortable bed, staring at the ceiling tiles, and made a decision. Not in anger. Anger is hot and impulsive. No, this was something colder, clearer. This was the decision of a woman who'd finally seen the truth and refused to look away from it. I asked the nurse for my phone and my laptop. She hesitated. "You should be resting, Mrs. Chen." But something in my eyes made her comply. What Marcus didn't know, what I'd never told him, was that his struggling working-class mother wasn't quite what she seemed. 23 years ago, when Marcus was 6, my uncle died. Uncle Richard, my mother's wealthy brother who'd made a fortune in commercial real estate. We'd never been close. He was one of those distant relatives you saw at weddings and funerals. But he'd never married, never had children, and in his will, he left everything to me, his only niece. $4 million, investment properties, stock portfolios. I was 31 years old, a single mother working as a secretary, and suddenly I was wealthy. But I remembered what wealth had done to my own family. The fighting, the suspicion, the way money poisoned every relationship. I'd watched my cousins turn into entitled monsters who never worked a day, who valued their father only for what he could give them. I didn't want that for Marcus. I wanted him to grow up with values, with work ethic, with the understanding that love couldn't be bought. So I put almost everything in trusts and investment accounts he didn't know about. I lived modestly, worked my jobs, raised him to understand the value of a dollar. I gave him a normal childhood, free from the corruption of wealth. I'd planned to tell him everything on his 30th birthday. A surprise. "Marcus, you never have to worry about money again. Your children will be secure. I did this because I love you." I'd imagined his face. Shock, joy, gratitude, maybe tears. Definitely a hug, the kind he used to give me before Stephanie came into his life and made him too sophisticated for maternal affection. That future dissolved the moment he told me to text him if I was dying. Now, lying in my hospital bed with my laptop balanced on my broken cast, I began to plan something very different. I opened my secure banking portal. My investment portfolio had grown substantially over the years. The original $4 million had become nearly $7 million through careful management. The properties had appreciated. I had assets Marcus couldn't even imagine, and he would never see a penny of it. But more than that, I was going to teach him a lesson about family, about loyalty, about taking people for granted, not through yelling or tears or emotional confrontation. Marcus had become immune to those. Stephanie had trained him well in dismissing emotional appeals as drama. No, this would be surgical, calculated, a masterpiece of natural consequences. I started making phone calls. My 70th birthday fell exactly 3 weeks after the accident. I'd been out of the hospital for 2 weeks, recovering slowly in my small apartment. Marcus had called twice, brief, obligatory check-ins that felt more like items being ticked off a to-do list. Stephanie had sent flowers with a card that read, "Hope you're feeling better," in generic cursive. I hadn't told Marcus about my birthday. Why would I? He'd forgotten it the last 2 years running, but I'd made other arrangements. 3 days before my birthday, I called Marcus from a number he didn't recognize, a burner phone I'd purchased specifically for this purpose. "Hello?" His voice was impatient. "Marcus Chen." I altered my voice slightly, made it crisper, more professional. "Yes. Who is this?" "My name is Patricia Yao. I'm an attorney with Morrison, Whitfield and Associates. I'm calling regarding your mother, Margaret Chen." The silence on the other end was electric. I could practically hear his thoughts racing. Car accident. Hospital. Had something happened? Is she okay? For the first time in weeks, I heard actual concern in his voice. "Your mother is fine, Mr. Chen. I'm calling because she's requested your presence at a small gathering this Saturday afternoon. 2 o'clock at the Riverside Estate. Do you know it?" The Riverside Estate. That's that fancy event venue downtown. Why would... "Your mother has asked that I not disclose the details over the phone, but I can assure you it's important. She specifically requested you attend with Ms. Stephanie Whitmore." Another pause. "How do you know about Stephanie?" "Your mother has been quite thorough in her planning, Mr. Chen. Will you attend?" Yes, of course. Is something wrong? Is she sick?" "I'm not at liberty to say. Saturday at 2. The invitation extends to Ms. Whitmore as well. Your mother was quite insistent on that point." I hung up before he could ask more questions. Then I made similar calls to other people in Marcus's life. Stephanie's parents, Charles and Victoria Whitmore, who I'd never actually met, but whose contact information I'd obtained through careful research. Marcus's colleagues from work, his college friends. Even his father, Robert, who'd abandoned us 26 years ago, and whom Marcus had recently reconnected with. To each, I extended the same mysterious invitation. "Margaret Chen requests your presence. The Riverside Estate, Saturday at 2. The venue itself had cost me a pretty penny, $15,000 for the afternoon rental, but money wasn't an object anymore, not when teaching my son the most important lesson of his life. The tension is building. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You're going to want to see how this mother turns the tables. Comment below if you think you know what she's planning. Saturday arrived with perfect weather, clear skies, gentle breeze, the kind of day that felt made for garden parties and celebration. The Riverside Estate was stunning. Manicured lawns, a Victorian mansion converted into an event space, white tablecloths and elegant floral arrangements, a string quartet playing softly near the fountain, servers in crisp uniforms circulating with champagne and hors d'oeuvres. It looked exactly like what it was, the birthday party of someone very wealthy. Marcus arrived at 1:55, Stephanie beside him, both of them dressed to impress and utterly confused. I watched from the window of the private room where I was waiting, saw the moment they took in the scene, the luxury, the elegance, the crowd of people who'd already arrived. "What is this?" I heard Stephanie whisper. "I have no idea," Marcus replied. They weren't alone in their confusion. Charles and Victoria Whitmore arrived looking perplexed. Marcus's colleagues stood in clusters, trying to figure out why they'd been invited to their co-worker's mother's birthday party. Robert, Marcus's father, stood alone near the bar, looking as uncomfortable as he should have. At exactly 2 o'clock, Patricia Yao, a real attorney I'd hired for the day, stepped to the small podium near the fountain. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today. We're here to celebrate Margaret Chen's 70th birthday." Margaret, has asked me to welcome you on her behalf. She'll be joining us shortly," the crowd murmured. Marcus's eyes darted around, searching. I took a deep breath, checked my reflection one final time, and stepped out onto the terrace. The woman who emerged wasn't the modest working-class mother Marcus knew. I wore a custom-designed dress that had cost more than Marcus's monthly rent. My grey hair, usually pulled back in a simple bun, had been professionally styled. Jewelry, real jewelry, pieces from my uncle's estate that I'd kept locked away for decades, adorned my neck and wrists. I'd even hired a makeup artist. I looked like what I was, a wealthy woman in complete control. The crowd fell silent as I walked to the podium. Marcus's face was a portrait of shock. "Thank you all for coming," I began, my voice steady and clear. "I know many of you are confused about why you're here. Some of you don't even know me, but I promise, by the end of today, everything will make sense." I let my gaze sweep across the crowd, landing on Marcus. "My son Marcus is here today. Marcus, could you come forward, please?" He moved like a sleepwalker, Stephanie trailing behind him. Up close, I could see the questions in his eyes, the confusion, the first stirrings of fear. "3 weeks ago," I continued, my voice carrying across the silent garden, "I was in a serious car accident. I called my son from the wreckage of my car, bleeding and in pain, and asked for his help." Marcus had gone pale. He told me he was at a birthday party, Stephanie's mother's birthday party to be exact, and that if I was dying, I should text him and he'd come later. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Victoria Whitmore's champagne glass stopped halfway to her lips. Charles's face flushed red. Stephanie grabbed Marcus's arm. "You didn't! Tell me you didn't!" But I wasn't finished. "I spent 29 years raising my son alone," I continued, my voice calm, but carrying clearly across the garden. "His father," I gestured to, "Robert, who'd gone grey as ash, left when Marcus was 3, walked out to find himself and didn't look back, didn't send child support, didn't call on birthdays, just gone." Robert stared at his shoes. "So I worked. 3 jobs at my peak. Secretary during the day, evening shift at a restaurant, weekend bookkeeping for local businesses. I wore clothes from thrift stores so Marcus could have new school supplies. I ate ramen for dinner so he could have fresh vegetables. I skipped doctors' appointments when I was sick because the money was better spent on his college fund." I could see tears forming in some guests' eyes, but not in Marcus's. He still looked confused, waiting for the other shoe to drop. "I put him through college without loans, helped him buy his first car, co-signed his first apartment lease. I was so proud of the man he became." I paused. "Or who I thought he'd become." Marcus found his voice. "Mom, I don't understand what this is. 23 years ago, when you were 6, my Uncle Richard died. He left me everything, $4 million, properties, investments. In one day, I went from struggling single mother to wealthy woman." The crowd murmured. Marcus's eyes went wide. "But I didn't tell you. I didn't change our lifestyle. I kept working my modest job, kept living in our small apartment, kept teaching you the value of hard work and humility. Because I'd seen what inherited wealth did to children. I'd seen kids turn into entitled monsters who valued their parents only as ATMs. I stepped closer to Marcus, looking him directly in the eyes. "I wanted you to love me for me, not for what I could give you. I wanted you to build your own success, develop your own character, become your own man. So I hid my wealth. I invested it quietly. I planned to tell you on your 30th birthday, a gift, security for your future, for your children, a reward for becoming a good, decent man who didn't need money to define his worth." Stephanie's face had gone through several shades of emotion, shock, calculation, and now naked greed. "But 3 weeks ago, as I lay bleeding in my car, you taught me something. You taught me that all my sacrifice, all my careful planning to build your character had failed. You'd become exactly the kind of person I'd tried to prevent, someone who saw family as optional, who prioritized social status over blood, who couldn't be bothered to show up for the woman who'd given him everything." "Mom, I'm sorry. Made a mistake. I was stupid. I should have... You made a choice, Marcus. A choice that showed me who you really are. I turned back to the crowd. So today, on my 70th birthday, I want to share some news with all of you. With my son, with his girlfriend, with the Whitmore family he's so eager to impress, with all the colleagues and friends he's been pretending to. I nodded to Patricia, who handed me a document. This is my last will and testament, updated as of yesterday. In it, I'm leaving my entire estate, currently valued at approximately $7.2 million, to charity. The children's hospital where I received such excellent care after my accident. The women's shelter where I volunteered for years. The scholarship fund that helped kids like Marcus go to college. Marcus's face went from white to green. What? No, you can't. Mom, please. Every penny, I continued. Marcus will receive exactly what he's shown I'm worth to him. Nothing. Stephanie released Marcus's arm as if he'd become toxic. Furthermore, I continued, enjoying the moment more than I probably should, I want everyone here to know some other truths. Marcus, you've been telling people, Stephanie's parents included, that you put yourself through college, that you're a self-made man. Would you like to tell them the truth, or should I? His silence was answer enough. Every dollar of his education was paid by me. Every networking opportunity he had came through contacts I cultivated. That signing. Bonuses from his first job that he claims launched his career. I gave him that money, called it a bonus so he'd feel accomplished. Even the down payment on his BMW, that was my money. Charles Whitmore's expression had turned to stone. Victoria had moved away from where Marcus stood. As for you, Robert, I turned to my ex-husband, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the ground. Marcus told people you were dead. Too embarrassed to admit his father was a deadbeat. But you came back into his life 2 months ago, didn't you? Once he started posting pictures of himself in nice restaurants, once he seemed successful, suddenly you were interested in your son again. Robert said nothing. There was nothing to say. And Stephanie, I fixed her with a look, you've been very careful about positioning yourself in this relationship, always making sure Marcus picks up the check, always forgetting your wallet. Those hints about engagement rings, about wanting a provider who can match your family's lifestyle. Did you think no one noticed? Stephanie's perfectly composed face cracked. I don't have to listen to this? No, you don't. You're free to leave. In fact, I encourage it. Save yourself some time. The man you've been grooming as your meal ticket just became worthless to you. She lasted about 30 seconds before she turned and walked away, her heels clicking sharply on the stone pathway. She didn't look back at Marcus once. Marcus stood alone now, isolated in the middle of the beautiful garden, surrounded by people who'd just learned every truth he'd been hiding. Mom, he whispered, and for the first time I heard genuine emotion in his voice. Desperation, fear. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll do better. You had a mother who would have given you everything, I said quietly, and you couldn't be bothered to show up when she needed you most. Let that be your inheritance, Marcus. The knowledge that you had something priceless and you threw it away for a birthday party with people who don't even like you. I turned to the crowd. Please enjoy the party. There's food, drink, music. Celebrate life, celebrate family, celebrate the people who actually show up when you need them, because that's what matters. Not money, not status, not appearances, just love and loyalty. I walked away from my son, from his tears, from his pleas, and I didn't look back. The party continued without me. I retreated to the private room inside the estate, watching through the window as people either left quickly or stayed to gossip. Marcus remained in the garden, sitting on a bench with his head in his hands. Robert approached him once, tried to speak to him, but Marcus waved him away violently. Patricia joined me with a glass of wine. That was quite a performance. It wasn't a performance, I said quietly. It was the truth. The crowd certainly responded to it. Your son looks devastated. He should be. But even as I said it, I felt the first stirrings of something uncomfortable in my chest. Not regret exactly, but something adjacent to it. There are several reporters outside, Patricia continued. Someone in attendance must have tipped them off. They're asking for a statement about the secret millionaire mother story. I smiled without humor. Let them write what they want. The truth is out now. And your son? What if he tries to contest the will? On what grounds? That I change my mind about who to leave my money. 2. People do that every day. Besides, the will is ironclad. I made sure of it. I paused. Did you deliver the other documents? Yes. Stephanie's parents received their copies an hour ago. The other documents were detailed financial records showing every penny I'd given Marcus over the years, every tuition payment, every loan that was never repaid, every gift disguised as something else. I'd sent them to the Whitmores because I knew how people like them operated. Appearance was everything. And Marcus, the self-made success story they'd been willing to overlook his modest background for, had just been revealed as a fraud. By Monday, everyone in their social circle would know that Marcus Chen was neither self-made nor wealthy, and that he'd abandoned his mother in a medical emergency for social climbing purposes. His reputation would be destroyed. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mrs. Chen, this is Harold Brennan from the Tribune. We'd love to interview you about... I deleted it without reading the rest. Then I turned off my phone. Patricia excused herself, and I sat alone in the quiet room, listening to the muffled sounds of the party outside. The string quartet was playing Vivaldi. People were laughing, the kind of nervous laughter that follows drama. I thought about Marcus at 6, crying when he scraped his knee, and how I'd held him until the tears stopped. Marcus at 12, so proud of his science fair project that he'd made me look at it a dozen times. Marcus at 18, graduating high school, hugging me and whispering, "Thank you for everything, Mom." When had that boy disappeared? Or had he ever really existed? Had I been so blinded by maternal love that I'd missed the signs of who he was becoming? Stephanie had changed him, I'd told myself. The Whitmores had corrupted him with their values. But was that really true? Or had I simply raised a son who'd always been capable of that phone call, and circumstances had finally revealed his true nature? A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. "Come in," I called, expecting Patricia. Instead, Marcus stepped through the door. His eyes were red-rimmed. His expensive suit was rumpled. He looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. "I told security you weren't to be allowed in," I said coldly. "I know. I slipped in through the service entrance. I had to talk to you." He moved closer, and I could see he'd been crying. "Mom, please, listen to me. I listened to you 3 weeks ago. Marcus, when you told me to text you if I was dying." He flinched as if I'd slapped him. I know what I said. I've replayed that conversation in my head every day since the hospital. I hate myself for it. As you should. I was wrong. I was so wrong. He dropped to his knees in front of my chair, actually knelt. I got caught up in everything. Stephanie's world, the money, the status. She was always talking about how important appearances were, how we needed to impress her family. I started believing that mattered more than you, than the woman who sacrificed everything for you. Yes, his voice broke. "I'm not asking for the money, Mom. I don't care about the money. I just want my mother back. I want another chance to be the son you deserve." I looked down at him, this man I'd created, who'd broken my heart and was now breaking his own. "Why should I believe you?" I asked. "Right now, you've lost everything. Stephanie's gone. Your reputation is destroyed. The Whitmores think you're a liar. Of course you'd say anything to get back into my good graces. How do I know this isn't just another manipulation?" "You don't," he admitted. "I can't prove it to you with words. I can only prove it with time and actions." He looked up at me with those eyes that used to be so innocent. "I know I don't deserve it, but please, give me a chance to show you I can change." I let the silence stretch between us. Let him kneel there, uncomfortable, uncertain. Part of me wanted to pull him into my arms. The mother in me wanted to forgive him, to make the pain in his eyes go away. But the woman who'd lain bleeding in a car, listening to her son prioritize a party over her life, that woman was harder. "Get up," I said finally. "You're making a scene." He stood slowly, hope flickering across his face. I'm not changing my will, I continued, and watched that hope die. The money goes to charity. That decision is final. I understand. But, I paused, choosing my words carefully. I'm not heartless, Marcus. Despite what you might think after today, you're still my son. I stopped, unwilling to give him the words he didn't deserve yet. I'm willing to let you try to rebuild our relationship. No money, no gifts, no bailouts, just mother and son starting from scratch. Yes, anything. I'll do anything. Then start by telling me the truth, all of it. Why did you really say what you said on that phone call? Don't give me the easy answer about being caught up in Stephanie's world. Go deeper. I want the truth. He was quiet for a long moment, clearly wrestling with himself. I was angry, he finally said. At you. Angry. For what? For being modest. For not having more. For not being like Stephanie's parents, who could open doors with a phone call and write checks that solved problems. He looked ashamed. Stephanie's father is a partner at a law firm. Her mother sits on charity boards and knows everyone who matters. They live in a mansion, and my mother was a secretary who lived in a one-bedroom apartment. There it was, the ugly truth. You were embarrassed by me. Yes. He could barely get the word out. I'm so ashamed to say it, but yes. When Stephanie would ask about you, I'd make excuses for why you couldn't meet her parents. I'd say you were busy, or sick, or out of town, because I didn't want her to see the gap between our families. So when I called needing you, I resented it. That's the horrible truth. I resented that you needed me when I was trying to impress people who I thought were better than you. Tears were streaming down his face now, and I hate myself for it. Because you were worth 1,000 of them. You were real and loving, and you built everything yourself. And I was too stupid and shallow to see it. I absorbed this, let it settle into all the wounded places in my heart. Thank you, I said quietly, for the truth. What happens now? Now you leave. You go home to your expensive apartment and your empty life. You think about who you are and who you want to become. And if you're serious about rebuilding our relationship, you prove it. Not with words, with actions. How? Figure it out, Marcus. I'm not going to give you a roadmap to redemption. That's something you have to want badly enough to find yourself. He nodded slowly, accepting this. Can I call you? Once a week. Sunday evenings. We'll talk, like strangers getting to know each other. Because that's what we are now. Okay. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Mom, I really am sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything, but I need you to know. I know you're sorry, Marcus. Everyone's sorry when they face consequences. The question is whether you would have been sorry if you'd gotten away with it. He left without answering because we both knew he didn't have a good answer to give. The story went viral. By Sunday evening, secret millionaire mother disinherits son who abandoned her was trending on social media. Someone at the party had recorded portions of my speech and posted it online. Within 24 hours, it had been viewed 7 million times. The comments were vicious toward Marcus, supportive toward me. Complete strangers weighed in with their opinions about family loyalty, about entitled children, about the values of the younger generation. My phone, once I turned it back on, exploded with interview requests. Morning shows, podcasts, YouTube channels. Everyone wanted to tell my story. I declined them all. This wasn't about fame or revenge or public shaming. This was about the private devastation of a mother who'd loved her son too much and a son who'd loved her too little. But while I could control my own participation, I couldn't control what others said. And what they were saying was brutal. Marcus's workplace got wind of the story. The details about him lying about his background, about claiming to be self-made when his mother had funded everything, those details apparently mattered in his corporate environment. On Wednesday, he was asked to resign from his position. The official reason was misrepresentation of qualifications, but everyone knew the real reason. They didn't want the liability of the man everyone was calling the worst son in America. Stephanie's parents made a statement to their social circle, distancing themselves from Marcus entirely. "We were misled about Mr. Chen's character and background," the statement read. "The Whitmore family does not associate with individuals who abandon family members in medical emergencies. His father, Robert, tried to defend him in an interview with a local news station, a move so transparently self-serving it made things worse. Marcus is a good kid who made a mistake," Robert said. "His mother is overreacting. The internet destroyed him for it. Where were you for 26 years? You have no right to comment on your son's character when you didn't raise him. The apple doesn't fall far from the deadbeat tree. Marcus called me Tuesday night, not Sunday, as we'd agreed. 'Mom, it's too much,' he said without preamble. 'I can't go outside without people recognizing me. I lost my job. My apartment building wants me out because the press is camping in the lobby. Everyone hates me.' 'Is this your weekly check-in?' I asked coolly. 'Because we agreed on Sundays. This isn't about our agreement. This is about my life falling apart. And you're calling me because you want—' 'What exactly? For me to make a public statement defending you? For me to fix the mess you created? I'm calling because I'm scared and you're my mother.' Something in his voice stopped me. Not manipulation this time, real fear. I softened slightly. 'Where are you right now?' 'In my apartment, alone. I ordered groceries delivered because I can't go to the store. Someone threw a drink at me yesterday when I tried to get coffee.' 'People are terrible,' I agreed. 'The internet creates monsters. They don't know you, and they think the worst thing you've ever done defines all of you. So you'll help me?' 'I'll help you understand something,' I corrected. 'What you're experiencing now, this public shaming, this isolation, this feeling that the whole world has turned against you, this is a fraction of what I felt lying in that hospital bed, knowing my only child couldn't be bothered to visit me.' Silence. 'You wanted consequences, Marcus. You wanted to be treated like an adult who makes his own choices. Well, congratulations. This is what adult consequences look like. The world doesn't forgive easily. People don't forget. So what am I supposed to do?' 'Exactly what I told you Saturday. Figure out who you are and who you want to be. Use this time. Think, reflect, actually change, not just perform change for an audience. But how do I make people stop hating me?' You don't. You can't control what people think. You can only control who you become. And maybe, if you actually change, if you actually become a person of character and integrity, then one day the world will see that. Or maybe they won't. But at least you'll be able to look in the mirror. Will you ever forgive me?' The question hung in the air between us. 'I don't know,' I answered honestly. 'Right now I'm still too hurt, too angry. Maybe someday. But forgiveness isn't a gift you demand, Marcus. It's something that has to be earned, piece by piece, day by day.' 'I'll earn it,' he said. 'I swear to you, I'll earn it. Then start by respecting our agreement, Sunday calls, not whenever you're panicking.' I hung up before he could respond. 3 months passed. The internet's attention moved on to other scandals, other outrages. Marcus's name stopped trending. The reporters stopped calling. Life, as it always does, continued. Marcus kept his Sunday calls. Every week, 7 p.m., like clockwork. At first, they were awkward, stilted. He'd tell me about his week, the job hunting, the rejection letters, the slow rebuilding of a life that had collapsed. I'd listen, offer minimal commentary, keep my heart carefully guarded. But gradually, something shifted. He started talking differently. Less about what was happening to him, more about what he was learning about himself. He'd gotten a job at a non-profit, making a third of what he'd earned before. 'It's humbling,' he said, 'but it's good work. We help families in crisis. Yesterday I helped a single mother apply for emergency housing assistance, and I kept thinking about all the times you must have needed help like that and were too proud to ask.' He'd moved to a smaller apartment, sold the BMW, started taking public transit. 'I never realized how much of my identity was wrapped up in things,' he confessed. 'The car, the address, the job title. Without them, I didn't know who I was.' He'd started therapy. 'Dr. Morrison asked me when I stopped seeing you as a person and started seeing you as a role to fill. I didn't have a good answer. But we're working on it. I listened to these Sunday calls, and slowly, very slowly, the ice around my heart began to thaw. Not because of what he was saying, but because of what he wasn't saying. He wasn't asking for money, wasn't asking me to rescue him, wasn't even asking for forgiveness anymore. He was just talking, the way a son might talk to his mother. One Sunday, 5 months after the birthday party, he said something that surprised me. I visited the children's hospital yesterday, the one you're donating to. I asked if I could volunteer. Why? Because I wanted to understand what you valued, what you thought was worth your money. And Mom, these kids, his voice got thick. They're so sick and so brave, and their parents are exactly like you were, working 3 jobs, sleeping in chairs by their hospital beds, sacrificing everything. And I get it now. Why you hid the money from me. If I'd grown up knowing we were wealthy, I never would have developed any character. At all. I'd have been worse than I became. So much worse. Maybe, I allowed. I read to a little boy yesterday. Leo. He's 6, has leukemia. His mom was there. She looked exhausted. I asked when she'd last slept, and she said she couldn't remember, that it didn't matter because Leo needed her. That's what parents do. That's what you did. And I repaid you by telling you to text me if you were dying. He was crying now. I could hear it in his voice. I don't know if I'll ever forgive myself. For that, Mom, even if you do. I was quiet for a long moment, feeling something shift inside me, something fundamental. Marcus? Yes? Next Sunday, instead of a phone call, would you like to come to dinner? At my place? The silence was deafening. Then, really, just dinner. Nothing fancy, but I paused, choosing my words carefully. I think maybe we could try sitting across a table from each other. See how that feels. I'd like that so much. Thank you. Thank you, Mum. 7 o'clock. And Marcus, bring nothing, just yourself, the real self, not the performance. Okay, I promise. That next Sunday, I cooked. Simple food. Spaghetti and meatballs. The meal I used to make him every Sunday when he was little. I set the table for 2. I didn't know what to expect. Marcus arrived exactly at 7, wearing jeans and a simple sweater. The first time I'd seen him in anything but a suit in years. He carried no gifts, made no grand gestures, just hugged me carefully as if afraid I might break. We sat, we ate, we talked about small things at first, the weather, a book he'd read, my garden. But then, over coffee, he said, I've been thinking a lot about what you said, about earning forgiveness. And I realized something. What's that? I can't earn your forgiveness by trying to earn it. That's just another performance, another role to play. He met my eyes. I can only become a person worthy of forgiveness. And maybe that's enough. Even if you never forgive me, even if things are never the same between us, at least I'll be someone I can respect. That's very wise. Dr. Morrison said something similar, but hearing it from you means more. We sat in comfortable silence for a while, the kind of silence that doesn't need filling. The money really doesn't matter to you anymore, does it? I asked. No, it never should have mattered. He paused. But if I'm being completely honest, it took losing everything to realize that. I needed to hit bottom to understand what was actually valuable and what's valuable. This, right here, sitting at your table, eating your cooking, having a real conversation with you, that's worth more than any inheritance. I felt tears prick my eyes. You're right, it is. Can I tell you something I've never told you before? Of course. When I was 8, there was this kid at school, Tyler Brennan. His dad was a doctor, really wealthy. Tyler would have these elaborate birthday parties at his house with magicians and bouncy castles and expensive gifts, and I was so jealous. I'd come home and wish we had money like that. I remember you mentioned it once. What you don't know is what you said to me when I complained. You said, Marcus, Tyler's father is at the hospital 60 hours a week. He misses most of Tyler's baseball games. I may not be able to give you bouncy castles, but I'm here. I see you. I know you. And that matters more. Do you remember that? I shook my head. No, I don't. Well, I do. I've remembered it my whole life, and for years I thought you were just making excuses for being poor. But you were right, Mom. You were always right. You were there. You saw me. You knew me. And I threw that away for people who didn't really care about me at all. The tears spilled over then, for both of us. I want another chance, he said quietly. Not at the inheritance, at being your son, at having a real relationship with you. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm asking. Anyway, I reached across the table and took his hand, something I hadn't done in years. You have it, I said simply, on one condition. Anything. Stop trying to be perfect. Stop trying to be the son you think I want. Just be honest. Be real. Show up. That's all I ever wanted. He squeezed my hand. I can do that. And for the first time in months, I believed him. The Sunday dinners became a routine. Every week, Marcus would arrive at 7, and we'd cook together, something we'd never done. When he was growing up, because I'd always been too rushed, too tired. Now we had time. We made his childhood favorites. We tried new recipes. We burned things and laughed about it. We talked, really talked, about his childhood, about his father, about Stephanie and what he'd seen in her. I think I loved the idea of her more than her actual person, he admitted one evening while chopping vegetables. She represented everything I thought I wanted. Status, wealth, acceptance into a world I'd always felt locked out of. And now I see how shallow it all was. Her parents never knew me. They knew my job title and my potential income. The moment those things vanished, so did their interest. That must have hurt. It did. But it also clarified things. You were right to hide your wealth from me. If I'd known, I'd have become exactly like them, valuing people for what they had instead of who they were. He'd kept volunteering at the children's hospital. 2 nights a week he'd read to. Sick kids, play games with them, give their exhausted parents a break. He never mentioned it unless I asked, never used it as proof of his redemption. There's a little girl there now, he told me one Sunday. Anna, she's 7, has a heart condition. Her mother reminds me of you, working full-time while managing Anna's care, never complaining, always making it work. Have you talked to her? The mother? A little. I asked if there was anything I could do to help. She said just spending time. With Anna was enough. It gave her 30 minutes to close her eyes without worrying. Something occurred to me. Marcus, you're not using your own money to help these families, are you? He looked sheepish. Maybe a little. I paid for Anna's mother's parking last week. It's expensive to park at the hospital all day, and I remembered you saying that was one of the hidden costs when I was sick as a kid. You're working at a non-profit. You don't have extra money to be giving away. I don't need much, Mom. My apartment is small, my expenses are minimal, and it feels good to help, like I'm finally using whatever privilege I have for something worthwhile. I studied my son, this man who'd become a stranger and was slowly becoming familiar again. I'm proud of you, I said quietly. He froze. What? I'm proud of you. For the work you're doing, for the changes you're making, for showing up week after week, even when it must be hard. His eyes filled with tears. Thank you. That means you have no idea what that means to me. But I did, because I remembered being young and desperate for a parent's approval, for validation that I was doing something right. Around month 8, Marcus asked me something unexpected. Would you consider coming to meet Dr. Morrison with me, my therapist? She's been wanting to understand more about our relationship from your perspective. I hesitated. I don't know if that's a good idea. I'm not asking you to defend me or make excuses for me. I just think, he paused. I think hearing from you might help me understand things I can't see on my own. So I went. Dr. Morrison was a woman in her 60s, with kind eyes and the sort of gentle directness that I imagined made her excellent at her job. Thank you for coming, Mrs. Chen, she said. Marcus has told me a lot about you, but I think there are some pieces of the story he can't tell because he wasn't aware of them. For an hour, she asked me questions about raising Marcus alone, about my decisions to hide my wealth, about the phone call after the accident and why it had hurt so much. It wasn't just that he didn't come, I explained. It was the tone, the irritation, as if I'd called to ask him to run an errand, not to help me when I might be dying. It was the realization that somewhere along the way I'd become an obligation to him instead of a person he loved. Marcus, sitting beside me, had tears running down his face. "And when did that shift happen, do you think?" "Doctor," Morrison asked gently, "when did you start to feel like an obligation?" I thought about it. When he met Stephanie's family, suddenly there were all these excuses for why I couldn't meet them, why he was too busy to visit. He was building this new life, and I wasn't part of it. Or I was, but only as someone he had to manage, not someone he wanted to include. "Did you tell him how you felt?" "No, I thought—" I stopped. "I thought I should let him live his life. That good mothers don't guilt their children into spending time with them." So I stayed quiet and watched him drift away. Dr. Morrison turned to Marcus. "What do you hear in what your mother just said?" "That I hurt her long before the phone call," he said quietly. "That the accident was just the moment it became impossible to ignore what had been happening for months." "Yes. And Mrs. Chen, what stopped you from speaking up earlier?" "Fear, I suppose. Fear that if I told him how I felt, he'd see me as needy, clingy, the kind of mother who can't let go." I looked at Marcus. "I wanted you to choose me freely, not out of obligation. So I stayed silent and hoped you'd realize on your own that I was worth your time." "That's a lot of pressure to put on yourself," Dr. Morrison observed. "And Marcus, a lot of pressure to put on you to intuit your mother's needs without her expressing them." "I should have known anyway," Marcus said. "She raised me alone. Of course she wanted to be part of my life. Should have, could have." "These are words we use to beat ourselves up," Dr. Morrison said. "What matters is what you do now. Moving forward." She looked between us. "You've both been honest today in ways that clearly haven't been easy. Can you continue that honesty? Can you, Mrs. Chen, tell Marcus when you need more from him? And can you, Marcus, hear that without becoming defensive?" "I can try," I said. "Me too," Marcus added. That session became the first of several. Once a month we'd meet with Dr. Morrison. Together, not as patient and therapist, but as mother and son, learning to communicate after years of miscommunication. It helped. Slowly, carefully, we built something new. Not the relationship we'd had when he was young, before money and status and Stephanie had complicated everything, but something more honest, more real. One year after the birthday party, Marcus called me on a Wednesday, not our usual Sunday schedule. "Mom, can you meet me at the hospital?" "Not as a patient," he added quickly. "I have something to show you." I found him in the pediatric wing, standing next to a small plaque on the wall. He was beaming. "What is this?" I asked. "Read it." The plaque read, "The Margaret Chen Reading Room. Donated in honor of a mother who taught her son that love is shown through presence, not presence." I stared at it, then at him. "Marcus, what did you do?" "I've been saving every extra penny from my job for the past year. I know it's not much, not compared to your donation, but I wanted to contribute something. So I funded this room." He gestured to a bright, cheerful space, filled with books, comfortable chairs, and toys. "It's a place where parents can take a break, read to their kids, or just sit somewhere that doesn't smell like hospital. I thought you'd like that." I couldn't speak. Tears were streaming down my face. "You hate it," he said, panicking. "I should have asked first. I'm sorry." "I love it," I managed. "Marcus, I love it." He hugged me then, and I hugged him back, and for the first time in over a year, it felt natural, easy, right. "There's more," he said when we pulled apart. "I've been talking to the hospital administration about starting a fund, a foundation that helps single parents with sick kids, pays for parking, meals, emergency housing, whatever they need. I was hoping," he paused, "I was hoping you might want to be involved, not financially necessarily, but with your expertise, your guidance." "A foundation?" "I want to call it the Margaret Chen Foundation for Family Support, if you'll let me use your name." I looked at my son, this man who'd broken my heart, and spent a year carefully piecing it back together. "On one condition." "Anything. We run it together." equal partners. Your work, my resources. A real collaboration. His smile could have lit the whole hospital. Really? You'd do that? I'd be honored to do that. We spent the next 6 months building it, the foundation that would become our shared purpose. Marcus handled the operational side, working with families, identifying needs, creating programs. I handled the financial side, making donations, setting up the structure, ensuring sustainability. We worked well together. We'd argue sometimes. I thought he was too generous with individual families. He thought I was too cautious with the budget. But we'd talk through it, compromise, find solutions. The foundation grew. We helped 50 families in our first year, then 100. We got media. Attention, the good kind this time. Stories about the mother and son who'd turned their public breakdown into something beautiful. Marcus was interviewed once about our relationship. A year ago, I was the worst son in America, he said. I'd thrown away the most valuable thing I had, my mother's love, for things that didn't matter. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive myself for that, but my mother gave me something I didn't deserve, a second chance, and I'm spending the rest of my life trying to be worthy of it. The reporter asked if I'd changed my will. No, I said firmly. My estate still goes to charity, the Children's Hospital specifically, and now the foundation Marcus and I built together. Because money isn't love, it's not legacy. The real inheritance I'm giving my son is the foundation we built together and the relationship we rebuilt from ashes. Marcus, sitting beside me, nodded. I don't want her money. I never wanted her money. I just didn't realize it until I'd already lost what mattered. The foundation is enough. Getting to work with her, learning from her, having her back in my life, that's the inheritance I actually want. 2 years after the birthday party, we held a small anniversary celebration for the foundation. 100 families we'd helped came to thank us. Parents who'd been where I'd been, exhausted, scared, alone, now had support. Marcus gave a speech. 2 years ago, I learned the hardest lesson of my life. I learned that you can't put a price on showing up for people. That status and wealth and appearances mean nothing compared to being present for the people who love you. My mother taught me that lesson the hard way. And now, through this foundation, we're trying to help families who need someone to show up for them. After the event, as we were cleaning up, Marcus said, Mom, can I tell you something? Always. I'm dating someone. Nothing serious yet, but it might become serious. And I wanted to tell you before it got that far. What's her name? Sarah. She's a social worker. We met through the foundation. She's kind and funny, and she doesn't care that I used to make 6 figures and now make 40,000. She likes me for me. I'd like to meet her. Next Sunday dinner? I'd love that. Sarah came to dinner. She was exactly as Marcus described. Kind, genuine, unimpressed by superficial things. She asked me questions about my life, my work, my history. She treated Marcus with respect, but not reverence. She called him out when he was being too self-deprecating about his past mistakes. You made a mistake, she told him over dessert. A big one, but you've spent 2 years making amends. At some point you have to forgive yourself. That's what I tell him. I agreed. Well, he doesn't listen to me yet, Sarah said with a smile. Maybe he'll listen to his mother. I liked her immediately. Over the next months, as their relationship deepened, I watched Marcus with her. He was different than he'd been with Stephanie, more genuine, more vulnerable, more real. He didn't try to impress her, he just was himself. One Sunday, he told me, I think I'm going to ask Sarah to marry me. That's wonderful. I wanted to check with you first, make sure you approved. Marcus, you don't need my approval. You're an adult. I know, but your opinion matters to me. And after everything with Stephanie, I wanted to make sure I wasn't making another mistake. Sarah is nothing like Stephanie, I assured him. She sees you, the real you. That's what matters, he proposed a month later. Sarah said yes. They planned a small wedding, nothing like the elaborate affair he and Stephanie had been planning. Just family and close friends at a small garden venue. Marcus asked me to walk him down the aisle. Since there's no father to do it, and you're the one who actually raised me, he said. I cried when he asked. Happy tears this time. The wedding was beautiful, simple, full of love. As I walked Marcus to the altar, I thought about the journey we'd taken, from the broken man kneeling in my hospital room to this, a man who'd learned what actually mattered, who'd rebuilt himself from the ground up, who'd earned back not just my forgiveness but my respect. During the reception, Marcus gave a speech. Most people thank their parents for getting them to this day. I need to thank my mother for something different, for refusing to give up on me even when I'd given up on myself, for teaching me that wealth isn't measured in dollars but in character, for showing me that the best inheritance is the example of how to live. He raised his glass. To my mother, who loved me enough to let me fail, and then loved me enough to help me rebuild. Everything good in my life comes from her. The room applauded. I met his eyes across the crowd and nodded. Later, during the dancing, he pulled me aside. I have something for you. He handed me a small box. Inside was a simple bracelet, not expensive, just meaningful. Engraved on the inside were the words, "Sunday dinners forever." It's a promise, he said. No matter what life brings, no matter how busy things get, we'll always have Sunday dinners. Always. Always, I agreed, hugging him tight. Epilogue, 3 years later. I'm sitting in my garden on a Sunday afternoon, watching my 3-year-old granddaughter, Lucy, chase butterflies through the flowers. Marcus and Sarah's daughter, with my eyes and his stubborn chin. Marcus is at the grill, cooking for our weekly Sunday dinner. Sarah is setting the table. It's a scene of domestic peace that I never thought I'd have after that terrible phone call 3 years ago. The foundation is thriving. We've helped over 500 families now. Marcus works there full-time. Sarah volunteers. They're building a life centered on service and meaning rather than status and wealth. Marcus comes over with Lucy on his shoulders. "Mom, I was thinking, Lucy's going to start asking questions soon about why her grandmother lives in a modest apartment when the foundation she co-founded has millions of dollars. And what will you tell her? The truth, that her grandmother had money but cared more about people, that she taught her father the most important lesson of his life, that how you treat people when they need you matters more than anything you can buy." That's a good answer. Lucy reaches down from Marcus's shoulders and grabs my hand. "Gamma, play." "In a minute, sweet girl," I tell her. Then to Marcus, "Do you have any regrets about the money you'll never inherit?" He thinks about it seriously, the way he approaches all questions now. "No, because what I got instead was so much better. I got you back. I got to build something meaningful. I got Sarah and Lucy. I got a life I'm actually proud of." He pauses. "Do you have any regrets about how you handled everything?" "Sometimes I wonder if I should have told you sooner, about the money, about how much your words had hurt me. But then I think, would you have learned the lesson if I hadn't let you fall all the way down? Probably not," he admits. "I needed to lose everything to understand what actually mattered." Sarah calls us to dinner. As we gather around the table, Marcus, Sarah, Lucy and me, I think about the woman I was 3 years ago, lying in a hospital bed, heartbroken and alone, wondering if she'd failed as a mother. I didn't fail. I just had to teach the hardest lesson in the hardest way. And now, watching my son serve food to his wife, listening to him make his daughter laugh, seeing the man he's become, I know it was worth it. All the pain, all the public humiliation, all the tears, worth it to get to this moment. Lucy bangs her spoon on her high chair tray. "Gamma, sit!" I sit next to my granddaughter and Marcus serves me first, a small gesture that means everything. "Thank you," I say. "For dinner? For everything. For showing up. For trying. For becoming the man I always knew you could be." He kisses my forehead. "Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave you every reason to." After dinner, after Lucy is in bed and Sarah is cleaning up despite my protests, Marcus and I sit on the porch like we do every Sunday. "I was talking to Dad yesterday," he says casually. "Robert, his father." "Oh?" "He wanted to know if we could have a relationship, if I could forgive him for leaving." "What did you tell him?" "I told him I'd learned from you that forgiveness isn't free, that it's earned through consistent action over time, and that if he wanted a relationship with me, he'd have to prove he was worth it. How did he take that? Not well. He said I was being harsh, that everyone deserves a second chance. And you said, I said you gave me a second chance, but I earned it. I showed up. I did the work. I changed. If he wants the same, he can start by showing up consistently for 6 months, and then we'll talk. I smile. I'm proud of you for setting that boundary. I learned from the best. He looks at me seriously. You know what the best part about all this is? What? I get to raise Lucy differently. I get to teach her what you taught me, that people matter more than things, that showing up is the highest form of love, that character is built through choices, and she'll never doubt that I value her, because I'll be here every Sunday, every milestone, every moment that matters. You'll be a wonderful father. I'm trying to be half the parent you were. Marcus, you're already more than that. Because you're present from the start. You're not working 3 jobs. You're not doing this alone. You and Sarah are a team. Lucy will grow up with 2 parents who love her and each other. That's a gift I couldn't give you. You gave me something better. You gave me resilience. You showed me how to fall and get back up, how to face consequences and grow from them, how to rebuild from ashes. He takes my hand. I wouldn't trade that for anything. We sit in comfortable silence as the sun sets, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzes. A notification from the foundation. Another family helped, another success story. Marcus's phone buzzes too. He checks it and smiles. Anna's mother just sent a photo. Anna's in remission. She's going home tomorrow. Anna, the little girl who'd reminded him of his younger self. That's wonderful. She wants to know if we'll visit her at home next week. Her mother wants to thank us in person. We should definitely go. Okay, I'll tell her we'll be there. He types a response, then looks at me. You know what I realized today? What's that? That phone call 3 years ago, the worst moment of my life, was actually the best thing that could have happened to me, because it woke me up. It forced me to see who I'd become and choose to be different. Everything happens for a reason, I say softly. Do you really believe that? I believe we can choose to find meaning in our pain, to let it teach us instead of break us. You did that. You let that terrible moment reshape you into someone better. He nods slowly. I'm glad you're my mom. I'm glad you're my son. Simple words, but after everything we've been through, they mean the world. To everyone who stayed until the end of this story, thank you. If you've ever been underestimated, abandoned, or taken for granted, remember this. Your worth isn't determined by how others treat you. It's determined by how you rise from the moments that break you. Your strength isn't in never falling. It's in getting back up, learning and choosing to become better despite the pain. If this story moved you, please hit that like button and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to teach someone a hard lesson? How did you find the strength to do it? Remember, the best inheritance you can give isn't money, it's character. It's showing up. It's love proven through presence. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to Margaret and Marcus's story. And remember, it's never too late to choose to be better. Until next time, take care of yourselves and the people who truly show up for you.